system you can do is creation of motion in the universe is not done the way we usually do it, everything is the right way. The creation of motion comes from the rapid gradient difference, but in respect to the third position. And so when you create very strong material here, then you create a weak material here in the same dimension. This middle one becomes the rotator. You understand, sorry? Yeah? So as it comes in, it goes back, but as it comes back, it creates this to rotate. It has no choice, because what it does, it takes a turn and does the same thing. As the other one comes, it has to take a turn. So these two are field rotators, but physically the third one in the middle rotates. You can do this in your dynamic reactors to create motion, and it's very simply done. When you load up your reactors, or space reactors, you can use this. This is what I especially refer to in the teaching, as even on I asked for it to be shown 129, and in a meeting recently I referred to it. This 129, if you look at it, we have 3 systems set up, very weak, very strong, and actually if you look into it, we don't get much motion in this one, but this has to do with this one. This has to create a motion with this one. And then you find out, because of the two difference, it creates a motion in this. And this is one of the reasons, if you look, we set the reactors this way. Because it's inevitable that it starts very slowly, and then they have to always to link up with the top. Then they start switching each other on. You're looking for plasma to rotate, you're really looking for your GANs to rotate, you're looking for your motor to rotate, then there is something happening. If you can create a dynamic reactor motion, then it goes. But in a way I always say, mm, everybody on this planet thinks when the people come from the other side, they'll teach them a lot. One of the beauties of human being system is you have discovered a motor. And that puts you a step further. In the space, people to create motion and be so control of it, it is done. But you're, you're, you are mechanically have managed to produce this. So you're a step further. Even if you position your reactors and change speed slightly in your rotation, you create a motion inside. When you stop gradually, you plug it in and it's got to work, otherwise there is something wrong. I plug it in, I go holiday for 30 days, I come back, maybe it's working. I go for another 6 months and I see, just start working, and I come back a year later, yes, it's rotating. Then I understand what's happening. You want to be in a star position, travel in the space, yes. So you have one advantage of having the motors, but understand you can play with the motors, because you're not playing with the motors, you're playing with the fields. And because you can't see the other one thing inside rotating, there is something wrong. As soon as you lots are coming up with more and more, you will see it. The pressure on 129, which was created this way, we detected the flow coming in at 129. We didn't detect the flow going out at 129. And then in reverse we saw the same. You can create motion, of course you can. You don't need any motors. But you don't expect to sit and watch. Nobody sits and watch plasma rotation. If the plasma is rotating in your spaceship, because it's there, they know it creates the field, and it's controlled by another plasma. The speed of the plasma is controlled by another plasma, not by a motor. You you see in the pictures we just saw in the fish tank, how the field suddenly blow to the other side and go back. There is no water in there, there is no wind inside. How does this come? It's all magnetic field pulling each other. It's a very beautiful demonstration of the field forces. It's a sealed box, fish tank sealed, nothing there, and you see a gas on the top pulling it up and creates field. So now we will really know it's there. You look at it to see if there is a gas there. I look at the picture as a field flow. How does the field flow in this situation? So the fields are there. Now, how do you want to turn that twist of? You saw it suddenly coming from the right to the left and hitting the glass and then going back up. That's like a hurricane. How can you now, a part of it is slowed down enough to be in the matter state that it can manifest itself and you can see it. So how are you going to use it? Now we know it's real. It's one of the first pictures you can see it. So there is a force there. There is a material there. So use that backlash to get the gases rotate. You see now how they do. So now that we know the gases rotate, we don't need to see. So the motion is there, but you have to find a way that it it builds up. This is one of the you lot who are working on the space technology and reactor development. You have to understand this. You have 3 reactors, and then you have one here. Your reactor here has to be totally gravitational and gravitational, absolutely gravitational. Here has to be absolutely magnetic. But when you load, you have to know how you load it. You put 1 drop of what is in here, in there, that when you collected it, because as it's going to share with this, it's find a new way. So with it takes the other one. And we're coming to the new dimension, which is here, it gets splashed back. You want physicality. Physicality comes from a diamond space structure. So you need a deuterium. And then if you arrange your deuterium in the right way, you get a material, you get your physicality. It's very, very simple. Come on there, open this forum. If I get a chance, as long as everything is orderly, I'll get you to there, but I won't do it for you. I spent 2 or 3 hours today setting up a system up with for the Chinese development. It's nice to be back in the lab. It's nice to be able to get to do things, but I can get it done flown, but I still won't do it because it has to be done by Chinese. I take Chinese into space very soon. It's my commitment to Chinese government and President Xi. It has to be done this way. Understand what you're doing. Try to understand how you do things. Try to understand the field forces, why you're doing it, the way you're doing it. How you can break it down. How you convert field forces into the matter state. As you saw in development of the space technology with John, what you heard John explain to you, as I said, he's a beautiful, what do you call it, student. He literally does, plus adding something from himself on top, plus his knowledge together, and Arman. There's 3 of us, we're pumping at it, but I don't do it for them, till they do it. But you saw the video, they can feel the heat. So we have learned conversion of the fields. Why does it come heat? When you have a plasma, and then you put a copper plate here, so now it has to change into the matter state. But it comes as a radiation of the field, not as a heat of the heat. And then our body converts it. This is how we have 37 degrees. So now we know how to convert matter into energy, or energy into matter, vice versa. So then you have your reactors. You have to create a funnel for it. You need a heavy, extremely heavy gravitational field. But when you collect it, At the end, it has to go out. Read the paper, Universal Order of Creation of Matter, and then you read the creation of gravity, and then the black hole. That's what it is. You cannot just bring it in. When you bring it in, if you show it a way to trap, you bring in 200, and there's nothing 200, but when you push it up 600, it's a massive force by the order of magnitude. So try to understand how fields play, not what you like them to play. Look at the reality and you all move. You all move in the direction of light.
Rick, have you received the
Yes, I can show that. We won't have time to describe it and so on. We just have to quickly go through. We got several people with their hands up that still need to be addressed here, and we're out of time.
If you share something in Rick's sessions, do not bring it here. We try to keep the two separate.
Oh,
if you
okay.
Demonstrate it, because Rick does a beautiful job on Wednesdays. Go to him for the React, that's the physical part of things. We try to keep it, not to bring it to be shown there, to be shown here. People have to learn to go to both to learn.
Okay, then I'll not show that here, and they can go to the plasma
They've got
group
to
to
come,
see that.
those who are really hands-on, they have to learn to come to those theoretical ones. I look after, don't worry.
My question was very theoretical. Is that, can we leave the phase of GANs out, just use the fields of the nano-coated?
That's the whole purpose. You put an empty ball in your cores.
Yes.
Well,
that's
maybe we can show his picture, because it's not really a physical device yet. It's theoretical, I guess you might say.
Theoretic, what you got to do? I showed you this. I explained this in the teaching. You need empty hollow base. I'll explain that, and then you have to have a GANs. Rick was one of the first ones years ago to start showing the hollow reactor. When you spin it, the GANs creates a hollow wall, but it cannot hold it, because when the energy collapses, when the motor stops, everything collapses, the field goes back in. This way you can hold it. When you create the dynamic system and you rotate it, and the GANs goes in there, it opens up to a field, then when you close it, everything collapses and it bends. By putting a single hole in there, an empty ball, the material expands, but not the ball. You can literally take this ball out, it's full of plasma fields. It's not empty. And even if you want to expand it more, instead of using the GANs of the what do you call it, matter state, you can use the GANs of the gas, which is much more powerful. The Chinese achieved this one. The Chinese have achieved the GANs condition of the gas. It's what I see. I said that 2 years, the rest of the world is 2 years behind minimum before you understand how to do it. It's so simple. They have achieved GANs production of the gas, and so for us to create lift and motion will be very easy. And then if we can go to the steps of the plasma, then we can do a lot. But that is the space, then you go into galaxial and universal transportation.
When you're talking about the deuterium, tritium, and the hydrogen, are you then referring to the ganses of these, or only at the plasmatic field?
Plasmatic section, plasmatic.
Plasmatic section.
But
these plasmatic fields are a result of the interaction of plasmatic fields. So if we say that we have the basic simplest CO2 reactor, we have a plasmatic field strength of 6, the carbon, and we use the.
You see, let me explain to you something, because sorry, I keep on jumping. It's beautiful what you're bringing up. Okay, now look at it this way. You put a system here, a copper coated and a zinc, yeah, and here you create a CO2, yeah, and here you have the water, correct?
Without the water, we only have the field strength.
Yeah, but you need the salt to create the dimension of it. Now, what happened if you put a motor which is rotating here and it's empty? What's in it? Still plasmatic field of the CO2.
Yes, I don't want to put the water in it because I don't want the material.
But it doesn't matter, you have to put the water to start the process partially, or the moisture does it for you. But because we want to extract physicalities there, but with the plates you have it. So you have a water mud, you put it there, you created the field here. You have to find out which side of the CO2 sits, yeah? So now you have a carbon here. Totally carbon.
Plasmatic field strengths of 6. For the Caroline core, we need the plasmatic field strengths of the tritium, the deuterium, and the hydrogen. And if we have the 6, and we create a gradient pull with the iron and the nano-coated copper, which is 3, then the 6 moves into the direction of the 3. And when the 3 gets fed back to the 6, in the middle, due to the vortex of the plasmatic field, the hydrogen and the deuterium and the tritium separate themselves. It's all about the creation of the Caroline core. That's what we were talking about. And
Yes, but you see,
for the spaceship and everything.
Yes, in a way. You are correct, but in the universal condition, we don't have these things. We are very limited in strength of materials. So you look at the core, if you look at this carbon, if you look at the carbon, is in reality a condition of it, which is 6 of the hydrogen, deuterium, sorry. You understand?
Yes.
So now you have 6 of deuterium. What's the size of this? What the ratio is the ball? And how you can place it as a ball itself. And then if you go a step back on it, if you can create a hydrogen, and then you create a deuterium and you can correct it, tritium. But if you confine it within what do you call, a carbon, so your gradient becomes very massive, doesn't it? The rotation in the first and the second core is inevitable. It'll happen.
Yes, it's this basic simple reactor, this what we would call a static reactor, because it's created a field of 6. It already has all the ingredients that we use later on. My understanding is that we then need a gradient, a plasmatic field difference with another GaNs or metal.
Okay, now we go back. You brought something up which I explained years ago. Now we go to it. Because I think if you are matured into it, the rest have to understand. We go back to one of the first boxes of the CO2 boxes, which the design was done this way, which we could put different plates on different condition of it, correct? If you remember?
Yes.
So if you remember, this is the zinc, for example, and this is a copper, yeah? So if you put a ball here of in the middle, so you have in it a carbon, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Carbon, by order of the plasma strength, it goes in the center. Yeah?
Yes.
Now you have a carbon, you have another, sorry, you have the copper here. Now you add a zinc ion, yes?
Yes.
Which now this gives you a H3.
Yes.
Correct?
Yes.
So your hydrogen sits here. This is your tritium. Correct?
Yes.
Now you have to choose another material on this side of the board. Yeah, we have this one here, and then you have the option to choose another material here, and then you have an option to choose another material here. Correct?
Yes.
The choice of the option, because here you're still creating the carbon, here as a carbon denominator. Because you chose, the only nanomaterial you chose was the copper. Yeah? So the rest you are playing with metals. Correct?
Yes.
So the next material you have to consider, you already received your carbon, you already, that's 12, or what do you call it, let's say on the proton sides. Yes? No, on the system of the energy is easier.
Plasmatic field strength, let's say 6.
Yeah, we put it on a plasmatic field strength, okay? I have to go here to get it back. Okay, so now we have the carbon in the middle. Sorry, the carbon is blue. We have the carbon in the middle. We have tritium outside it. Now we need to get the deuterium. How can we get the deuterium? Which is 1, 1, and 1. Yeah? So do what Giovanni does. Sit down and balance it out. Yeah? So now your reactor has become totally plasmatic. So what you're gonna do, let's say you choose a material which becomes deuterium. Correct?
By totally plasmatic, you mean it's in the Caroline core state?
Everything is in the Caroline core state. So now you have found the fourth material, okay? And this is the fourth material. Now, you need hydrogen. Where is your hydrogen going to be? Yeah? You need this here. So you need the hydrogen because it's of the lowest order to sit here. So you have a choice of 2 more metals. Or combination of the fields of these gives a condition. You have to remember one thing. Zinc. Zinc. Yeah? What is the zinc plus something, or a zinc plus something, or a zinc plus something, which can give you this?
Yes, I understand.
You understand?
Composite material.
One of your best option to create a hydrogen on its own, which is 1 electron, 1 proton, which you're looking for a neutron. In reality, energy fields of a neutron is very simple. You need a copper. Because somewhere in the field spectrum of the copper and nano copper coated, there is a release-free hydrogen.
The isotope.
Pardon? Yeah, one of its isotopes.
Yes, yes, yes.
You understand? So now what you have a gradient difference between the inside and outside. It will turn 100% the deuterium. And it will turn the tritium. Tritium will become the feeder of the, what do you call it? The feeder of the energy. The carbon in the middle, because of its plasmatic condition, it becomes a reflector. Then deuterium plays the game of carbon, gives you solidification. And then you get the motor rotating. It gets your plasma rotating.
Yes, and then we need to understand how to control the system because...
Very easy, extremely easy. Extremely easy.
We have an effect on the systems, and up until
You
now
can,
we've been
let me explain to you. You have within your position your amino acid. You still have that carbon dominator here. And then you have the connection of the hydrogen with it.
So we move it like our hands?
by emotion.
Yes, by our will.
Yes.
And this is why we should pray to the reactor, give our magnetic field. So
Yeah, the thing is, this is a totally plasmatic. This is one of the reasons in the teachings of the original GAN system. Always, if you go back in the recordings, many times, 3, 4 times I refer to it, and people are not ready for it, they don't understand. If you look at one of the original designs, we had brackets here, you could put material behind to change gases. But now, I always say, when somebody understands part, I explained all of it. So in fact, if you put a ball in here, you don't need to do anything else. You can contain it, and this becomes your, what do you call it, plasma field holder. But you need deuterium, especially 6 to 1, but it's an order of magnitude. But you have to go back on the carbon plasmatic magnetic field, which is the order of magnitude of 120 to 1 compared to the hydrogen. So it's a huge power point to create lift and shift. But if you can create this condition in 3 levels, then you have to find how you can feed this up to do it. This is what I said in the discussion few minutes ago, half an hour ago. You have to develop tools to achieve what you want to achieve. You just half it, you don't know what to do with it, it's no good.
This system,
You understand?
yes, this system alone can fly.
Yes, but where do you want to fly to? Where is your protection? You like to sit on the chair going nowhere. This has been tested for millions of years, but if you don't understand it, you cannot do much with it. Because you actually can create, if you understand the process, you can create subatomic, subnuclear, and then use the neutron as a feeder. Because when you go into the structure of the atomic physical structure, I lost it, let me get it back. When you go deep into the structure of the nuclear and nucleus process, it's not just the plasma, it's the combination of plasmas. And if you can understand, this is what I explained, when man goes further to understand creation of the plasma from the plasma, is when you reach the total maturity of universal transportation. But you're not there. There's no use explaining it to you.
In the universe, we will not have nothing else but the fields to work on. We will not have any matter.
In the dimension of what we call we travel above this. This is what are called, just means when you travel within the plasma of the plasma. Because neutron then is the plasma itself, but you can create the plasma of the neutron and understand the subdivision of it, then you're in different realm of real world of creation of the speed. But what I said, I teach man everything. That when it comes to space, is not falling behind. It doesn't come in slave, but man chooses the level of his slaveness in a way, if you understand it.
Yes.
You understand? So you push the boundary of the science, and it's there. I can teach you everything about the universe. I don't have, but you don't understand. What's the use teaching? So when you go into the division of the subplasma, if you hear this, what do they say? That ridiculous thing. Positive and negative quarks and blah blah. These are all plasmas, but if you can use a subdivision, because you see, if you take this as the center of a plasma, let me say the hydrogen is here. So you can imagine how powerful this center is. Yeah. Now, if you go in the shape of that center, then you see what sits in it. Still there is a subdivision of it. It still goes back in deep, but it still has its own characteristics and the fields of it. So if you can use that, you're already in the speed beyond imagination of the man, and now you go and play with it. You create the fields of this the way you created the field in that box. You understand?
Yes.
And then you enter a different dimension. You go from universe to universe in a flick of a, not even a flick of a finger, on the speed
Because
of
the
thought of a
center
man.
is God. It's the creation. It's everything. We are at
That's,
certain filter strengths that when we manipulate the matter, it's the
at the moment, man only understands matter. What's the use of teaching him what he doesn't understand? But believe enough knowledge that in the future man can explore.
now the task is to understand how we go from matter back to the Caroline core state, the fifth reactor, the imaginary reactor, the invisible reactor within the tetrahedron configuration, so that that we can
You
play with
see,
another soul that is not a physical reproduction as we give birth to our child, but a creation of our understanding of how the fields work. So basically, we are giving birth to a new being when we create a spaceship. And
yes, but we got to understand the whole understanding is to understand more in depth the true level of creation, because when you enter the true dimension of creation, you'll find out there are ways to interact, not to manipulate. Is to interact, that the outcome, the result is what you wanted. But man is far behind to understand these things. It's not there yet. And even when you look around Keshe Foundation, very, very few, even very, it doesn't come to more than a handful of people who might even touch in some dimensions. Those who try to fly have not understood the reality of what they have not understood, and they have to understand, then they fly. But flying is not objective. Understanding to travel the depth of the universe without flying, which is through the soul of the man, is the whole objective of teaching.